Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. And now I've had a few emails today asking me to take a look at the New York Times hard puzzle from Sunday. So I'm going to take a look at it now and see what I can see. I'm not sure, presumably it's because people have struggled with it today. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and use my trick for the New York Times hard Sudoku, which is always what I try and do is break the puzzle open completely by spotting hidden triples. So those of you who are recent subscribers to the channel will know that we're big advocates of something called Snyder Notation, which is, let's find an example. Let's look at where ones can go down here, for example. Ones can only go in two positions in the 3x3 block at the bottom. So we make little pencil marks to illustrate that fact. Now, this is a superb habit to get into in terms of solving Sudoku. It'll take you through most hard puzzles without difficulty, and I'd even recommend it for extreme puzzles, diabolical puzzles. Certainly as a start, you should always try and use this at the start of your solve, and then if you need to, you can go to more extensive notation later. However, this is all caveated by what I'm about to say, which is that Snyder Notation is not great at spotting hidden triples. And you can see it's sort of a dual system where we're notating a number into two places. So it's great for spotting pairs, it's great for spotting certain X-ring patterns. Triples it's not so good at. And the New York Times hard puzzle loves hidden triples. So what we need to look at, and I'm just scanning the grid now, I haven't spotted anything yet, but what I'm doing is I'm doing so-called box logic. So I'm comparing the contents of boxes, like this box here, with the open rows or columns in that box. And quite often in the New York Times, you can actually spot hidden triples without entering a number. So again, we've got 147 in the middle. That's affecting these three cells very profoundly. It's almost good enough. But there we go, 456 here down here. This is exactly what we're looking for. Look at this 456. This completely blows the puzzle open without us doing anything. And some of you will have spotted this already, but if you haven't, do take a stare at this and think about what I'm saying in terms of why this 456 is important. And the critical thing to notice is that if we look at the open cells, the open column here, in column 7, we know none of these positions can be a 4, 5 or a 6 anymore, but we have three numbers already in the column that are given, this 2, 3 and this 7, none of which interact with the 4, 5 and 6. Then there's no overlap between these numbers, so there are 6 numbers here affecting column 7, and therefore I need to put 4, 5 and 6 into these cells. That's the only places they can go. This is a triple, and all of a sudden we are off to the races. Now, interestingly enough, and it's actually good practice to do this, there is a sort of variation on this for a double if we look at the central 3x3 block. Look at the 1 and the 7 in this block. And now, now this cell here cannot be a 1 or a 7. This 1 and the 7, we need to put them somewhere in row 6. Where can we put them? Well, only into one of two positions. They can only go here and here, because they obviously can't go in these two positions. And I'd be surprised if this start isn't enough to, well, practically finish the puzzle. Let's see if we can use it now. So immediately you can see we have a 4 and a 6 here. So this cell is a 5. Let's tidy up these pencil marks here. Can't do anything more with 5s there. This 1 obviously resolves the 1 and the 7, or this one depending on your preference. So we can resolve that 1 and 7 like that. There must be a 7 in one of these two positions. This 9 here and this 9 interact on this 3x3 block and force a 9 into this cell. 9. Now this 6 also means there's a 6 either where I've notated the pair here, the 4, 6, or in this square. So interacting now with this 6 over here, there's a 6 in one of those two squares, and therefore there's a 6 in one of these two squares. And that matters because now look at where we can place a 7 in this block. We have a 7 here and a 7 here. So there's a 6, 7 pair now in row 3, which means we need to complete this row with a 3 and an 8. And look, there's an 8 here. So this cannot be an 8. That's a 3. This is an 8. And therefore this is a 3 up here. Simple Sudoku rules, 3, 3. We need to put a 3 in this block. And now this is a 3 now. It's the only place a 3 can go in this block. And now we have a 2 and a 7 in column 7, so this is a 2, 7 pair down here. This 2 by 2 arrangement here is always very powerful. Whenever you spot, or whenever you resolve a 3 by 3 block into this sort of pattern, you should always be scanning the open files here to see what we can, or whether we can make more deductions as a result of that. So 2, 7, there's got to be a 2 in one of these two squares. That's just basic Snyder notation. I need a 2 and a 3 into these two positions from the early logic we did, and there's a 2 here. So in fact that's a 2 and that's a 3. Oh wow, I mean this puzzle is really breaking now. That's 3, 3, 3 and 3, so this is a 3. And look, we have a 2's in these two squares, so I need to put a 2 into one of these two positions. Well, it can only go here. Now this must be a 1, so only place a 1 can go in this block because of the 1 in that square. So we need 4 and an 8 to complete this box. That means this is a 4. Again, simple Sudoku rules, 4's, 4, and this 4 here. Oops, now I want a little pencil mark 4's into those two squares. 9's into these two squares because of the 9 here. That means there's a 9 in one of those two positions. In fact, the other position here must be a 6. We still need a 6 into column 6 here, and there's a 6 here. So that is a 6, and that is a 9. Oh, wow. And now you can see we have a 6 and a 6. So look, there's a 2, 6 pair over on this side now, into those two squares. And one of the nice things about Snyder notation and where it works very efficiently is where this sort of thing happens. So we're now saying that the 2 and the 6 must occupy these two positions, and therefore it's impossible for this square to be a 1. If this square was a 1, that would imply that we needed to put a 2 and a 6 into this square, which is clearly impossible. So this is not a 1, and therefore this is a 1. 2, 6, 1, 7, 9. Now I need to put a 9 into. Yeah, I think I don't want to speak too soon, but I think that we are almost done with the puzzle now. This must be a 1. This must be a 7 because of the 1 up here. Look, that resolves the 6, 7 in this box. That locks a 6 into one of these two positions, which means we must be looking at 5 and 8 to complete this central 3 by 3 block. And is it 5 and 8 into these two squares as well? I think it is. And in fact over here I still need to put a 1 in this 3 by 3 block, and we have a 1 here. So that's a 1, that's an 8, that's an 8, that's a 5. This must be 5's into these two squares, and we still need to put a 7 into this block, and there's a 7 here. So 7 and 4. And you can see I've done absolutely nothing clever at all here. All I did was spot that thing at the beginning, and the rest of the puzzle has sort of collapsed from that point forward. And now I need to put a 1 in this block, so it's going to have to go in this square. And the moment I put that 1 in, that forces this to be a 4, this to be a 6, that unwinds the 6 down here. This must now be a 4, I think. I could use uniqueness here, it's a bit cheeky, but obviously there cannot be a 2 in either of these positions. because if there was, I'd have a 2-7 pair here and a 2-7 pair here, which is an illegal arrangement of 2s and 7s. And it's illegal because either there would be no way of disambiguating which way round the 2 and the 7 were intended to go. We could look at the finished solution. There might be a 7 here and a 7 here and a 2 here and a 2 here, but there would be no way of distinguishing why that was a better solution than if the 2 was here, the 2 was here, the 7 was here, and the 7 was here. Everything else in the puzzle would stay the same. We'd just flip these 4 cells round, and that would suffice. So I'll use uniqueness just as a little bit of variety. Now this must be an 8, 7, 7, 2, and my phone is buzzing. I don't know why. Let's put the 8 and 5 in there. 5's into these 2 squares. The 6, 9 is resolved by the 6 that we found, so that must be like this. This must be like that. Yeah, and as I say, I'm just going through the motions now. There is nothing clever I'm doing, and the real point of the video, to be honest, was very much the first couple of minutes. And I think it's a really powerful technique, especially in the New York Times puzzle. So I really recommend you to practice it, because it's actually quite easy to practice. You simply you load up the puzzle and you just stare at it for a couple of minutes and see whether or not it yields. And I think probably 3 times out of 7 during the week you'll be able to spot something beautiful like that, which will completely break the puzzle open. It's great for your wider pattern spotting. You can take that skill away and it'll be useful in lots and lots of different Sudoku solving. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. We really appreciate it. Do give us some feedback. Again, that's why we do this, is to interact with our audience. So thanks for watching again. We're back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.